I'm Melanie Johnson along with my co-host Jen Foster. We are both 13-time best-selling authors. We've published over 2,500 books and made all of our authors #1 bestsellers. We own Elite Online Publishing. If you want to become a best-selling author, look us up at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Now, welcome to the podcast that shares secrets from top industry experts that show you how to get lasting success and results. This is the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. This is Melanie. Welcome for another great podcast here. Of course, we always have information that's going to inspire you, motivate you, and educate you. And today we have, in my opinion, the ultimate leader of a corporation. And I say that because he's close to my heart. He is one of our authors, newest authors. He is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, USA Today best-selling author, international best-selling author. Did I give him enough titles besides being and running a multi-billion-dollar corporation? So if you want to know the secrets behind the success of that, then you're going to want to make sure you listen to this podcast. But first, make sure you subscribe to the podcast because we always give you great information. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends. You're going to want to share this with everybody you know because it's going to be a fabulous, fabulous podcast. And I'm here with Jen. Hey, Jen, how you doing?
Hey, everyone. I'm doing great. It's a wonderful day.
Good. And we want to remind you, if you're thinking about writing a book and becoming a bestseller like Jamey did, then we want to make sure that you contact us at Elite Online Publishing. So we have Jameyroots today. He is the president of the NFL team, the Houston Texans. And we're proud of him and proud of his book and proud of all of his accomplishments. And he is just a super guy. Hey, Jamey, thanks so much for coming today.
Of course, Melanie and Jen. It's great being with you guys.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how you got started writing your book and what kind of lead into how you became a Wall Street Journal best-selling author.
Well, the people ask me, how long you've been working on the book, and really it's about 35 years that I've been working on it. But in terms of producing the book, it was about 8 months. I was a failed author about 10 or 12 times. So I sat down, I wrote an outline, etc. I'll tell you, just being quite honest, Jen and Melanie, until I met you guys, I never felt comfortable that I would be able to complete a book. And as you know, my greatest concern was that it would be terrible. And with y'all's help, it actually turned out to be pretty special. I think it's a story that the world needs to hear. And I saw it as a gift to the world. I never cared whether anybody bought it or not. I wanted to have it down on paper, but fortunately it has been received really exceptionally well. And all of the proceeds go to charity, our Houston Texans Foundation, the Champions for Youth Initiatives, which develop the next generation of leaders in our community. So it really has been a tremendous blessing.
You know, a lot of people want to write a book and then never get to it, which I'm so glad that we connected and you got over that hump. And Jamey used to say, I just don't want it to be crap. And I'm like, it's not going to be crap. I guarantee you it's not going to be crap. It's going to be fantastic. And then you asked me a question along the way, like, what do you think this book will do for me or has done for me? But I want you to ask that question. What conversations has it opened? What kind of media has it given you? And what has it done to not just you personally, but the organization?
Well, I think everybody on the planet has a book to write, but very few people take the leap to do it. Even though there are millions and millions of books out there, very few people take the time to, in a very concise way, communicate their perspective on the world. And I think that puts you in a different class. It's kind of like when you see Jim Nance calling a golf event or an NFL game. You know, he's at a different level, and I could never get there, but you probably can if you were to apply yourself. And so I just encourage anybody who's thinking about it to, give Melanie a call because she'll give you all the confidence in the world and you'll be able to get it over the line.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into some of the content of the book and some of the things that you teach in the book. You have a few acronyms and a few lots of leadership skills and ideas. So tell us a little bit about, I think there's the acronym IMPACT.
Yeah.
A little bit about that.
I think culture is so important in an organization. And culture is the values of any given set of people. But you can't see values what you see is habits. And in order to develop habits, everybody's got to be crystal clear on what habits we're looking for. Values typically sit on the wall in a corporation, but when you convert them to habits, it's more likely that people know how to execute upon them. And so impact is how we codify the habits that we want our teammates to display more often than not. And it's about over communicating that. So I'm always talking about impact. I'm always recognizing impact. People who are innovative, memorable, passionate, accountable, courageous, and team oriented. And it's not the perfect plan, but it's our plan. And if you try to be all things to all people, you will wind up with nothing. And so we've chosen IMPACT as the things that we want our folks to do, and reward it and recognize it at every turn.
And that's one of my favorite acronyms that you have, impact. I mean, it's towards the front of the book, so you can get it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that really hits you home right away. And you talk about passion a lot in a lot of your acronyms. So why is passion important? And break that down for us, the passion that goes into culture and everything else.
So when I was a kid going to church, I would always hear about the passion of the Christ. And I was like, that is such a disconnect for me. That his experience did not look fun. But passion's not about fun. Yeah. Passion, the root word is P-A-T-I. It's a Latin word, patti, which means the willingness to suffer and sacrifice for what you hold dear. That's where passion lies. Because if you're going to do big things, important things, you are going to suffer. You are going to sacrifice a lot. And so it better be worth it to you. And I find more often than not, like Michelangelo said, it's not that we set the bar too low and hit it. Well, most people set the bar too low and hit it. You really need to set the bar high and miss it. Something so important to you that you would give up your life for it. That's the kind of desire that you need to really be great.
Yeah, I really like that too, because you can set your bar so high, and even if you miss it, you went higher than what you would have set, right? Because you always try and achieve, you're getting higher and higher. So I love that.
Yeah, and I think all the information you're giving is really good for companies, but I said this in the introduction, it's good for parents. It's good for relationships. I mean, so this crosses the board of all of that. One of my favorite things, Jamey, that you talk about is adversity and success. And I don't want to give the punchline away because, you're thinking one is worse than the other. So talk about your philosophy on adversity and success.
Well, fortunately for me, I've spent 20 years in the National Football League, 5 years in Major League Soccer, but the football experience has really been the most condensed, if you will. I mean, it's just really intense every day. And it's like you live a life every season. Every week, you're either dealing with adversity or you're trying to handle success, depending on how things went on Sunday. And so there really are plays that you can call to handle all adversity and to navigate yourself through success. Adversity is easy because adversity punches you in the face and you have to deal with it. The only question is, do you have the attitude of mind to be able to deal with it? And the 4 plays are all you need to be able to deal with any adversity in your life. If you will commit to them, you're done. You're good. Success is more difficult. Success doesn't punch you in the face. It's the silent assassin. It just sits in the background and sows the seeds of your destruction unless you take proactive measures. Well, number one, you got to be humble. Always be humble. You never know when you're going to get knocked down again. And so be humble. Never brag. Don't have ego. That's so important. Number 2 is stay focused on the success habits. It's not about the success itself, because I don't know, I'm not sure who said it, so I'll say I said it. If you focus on first things, you get second things. If you focus on second things, you lose both first things and second things. So if you focus on your success versus your success habits, you're done. You have to stay balanced. And I found in my life, there are periods of time where I really needed to be unbalanced in order to get something accomplished. And that's okay. But there's only a relative window that you can be unbalanced and be successful long term. Eventually, you've got to be able to fill the buckets in what I think are the three most important areas of anyone's life: your business, your family, your personal health and well-being. And so you really eventually have to get to where you're a third. Occasionally, your family's more important. Occasionally, you got to focus on you. Sometimes you got to focus on your business, but eventually get back to that balance and then keep going. You always have to be, and I think about this book as the perfect example of keep going, or being the chair of the Greater Houston Partnership. I could be the president of the Houston Texans in my sleep. I mean, it is, I have great people. They know what they're doing. The less time I spend in the business, the better. I'm totally up to speed on what's going on, right? I'm not asleep at the switch, but I need to let them do what they do. And so I occasionally take on these projects that stretch me and keep me going, because if I don't, again, those seeds of destruction will be sown in my being.
I think that's really important, where you're always growing and always moving forward. I really liked what you said about balance, because I think a lot of times business owners think, oh yeah, I've got to have balance all the time. But the line is not always straight balance. It's up and down. Like you said, sometimes you're focusing more on one part than the other part. And eventually you get back to balance, but then it's going to go back and forth, right, throughout your life.
That's right. And another piece that, and I mean, everybody, there are a lot of ways to live, but the way to live that I've chosen because of what I want to get accomplished is I have a blended life. I don't have work-life balance. I'm always working. But when I'm working, I'm with my friends. The people that I work with, my teammates, my customers, the media, all these people, it's not an arm's length transaction with any of them. They're all my best friends. And when I'm working on the Texans, I'm bringing my family into it. They come to games. We talk about games. We watch games. It's a centerpiece of our family. And so I've tried to create a blended life. I'm not a big believer in work-life balance. I don't think you can be maximally successful. Like if you really want to be a huge success, you have to embrace that it's always about the business. But in that, you can create all of the relationships that enable a meaningful life.
That makes so much sense. And that's why you're as successful as you are, I think, with everything that you do.
Well, I'll just give you an example. We went to London last year with our most important clients. And so we flew in and we arrived and we went to the hotel. We were playing the Jacksonville Jaguars at Wembley. And so we gathered everybody. And I said, look, I believe this with all of my heart, that when you're on your deathbed, there are only two things that are going to matter: your relationships and the experiences that you've had. And this weekend is about those two things. You're going to have experiences that you never thought you would in your lifetime. Me too. And we are going to build relationships that will last a lifetime. And I get to do that because of the role that I'm in with the Texans. It isn't about the business. It's about the relationships.
Yeah. And how do you, go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I think that it's really important to focus on that, because a lot of times people are just, money driven, or they're focused on one thing. But I've heard that multiple times by many leaders. And I love that you stress that point of relationships and experiences, because that is what it really comes down to at the end of the day.
You really have to focus to be successful. You got to focus on the inputs, not the outputs.
Mm-hmm.
Money is an output. Money is an outcome of doing right. And you take that money and you reward everybody in the ecosystem, not just your investors. They do have to be rewarded, but you reward your employees. You reward your customers. You reward your community with that outcome.
Well, let's talk about rewarding the community the fans. So every business has fans. How do you keep raving fans and keep that going?
Yeah, so it really solidified with me when I was at Procter and Gamble that every business is about two things: trial and loyalty. Introducing people to what you do and doing it in such an exceptional way that they are compelled to go out and tell someone else. Running a sports team, trial and loyalty is kind of boring, right? So we came up with the phrase, create raving fans. Create meaning that you have to take active effort to make it happen. It doesn't just happen on its own. Andy Warhol said, they say time changes things, but the fact is, you got to change them yourself. And so our people have to go out and do something to create this raving fan. And a raving fan isn't a fan of football. It's not even a fan of the Houston Texans. A raving fan is a fan of our organization, that they think they're special. You think about your favorite restaurant. Don't you love to tell your friends about your favorite restaurant? I think about a place I just went in Galveston. It was called the Artillery Club. And anytime somebody mentions Galveston, I'm like, have you ever been to the Artillery Club? No, I haven't. What's it like? It's the oldest club in Texas, and they don't have a menu. They come over and they say, what would you like to eat? You can ask for anything. That kind of experience is invaluable. It's priceless. And if you can get to that level, you have raving fans.
Wow, that's awesome. I can't imagine just walking into a restaurant and saying, what do you want to eat? That's amazing. I love it. I love it.
It goes up on your bill at the end of the month, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to talk a little bit about inside your book here. You have a lot of pictures as well. So tell us about some of your favorite pictures in there and the experience, maybe one or two of the experiences you had on one of those pictures.
Well, I'll just give you two of them. One is the picture with Vanilla Ice. I loved meeting him. I was a huge fan when I was a kid. And he came back and he played at our Liberty Whiteout game. So Vanilla Ice, Liberty Whiteout, it made perfect sense. The cheerleaders were in those baggy kind of hip hop sweats that people wore at the time, which was great. The thing that was wonderful about it is I'm there with my family, Melissa, Chris, Caroline, just one of, literally hundreds of games that we enjoyed together. And so that was really special to me. And another one is Flo Rida. Flo Rida didn't show up until like the fourth quarter, but it was just, I'm a huge fan, and the opportunity to spend, the afternoon with him, and he was so nice. One that I didn't include though is it was our first ever game. We played the Dallas Cowboys, and it was back in 2002. And my staff pitched me on having Jessica Simpson sing the national anthem. And I was like, we can't do that. They said, boss, what do you mean we can't do that? I said, we can't have a cartoon character. Which one of the Simpsons is? And I said, okay. So she comes and she's sitting with her buddies in my suite. And there's this guy, good looking guy back behind them. So I went over and I was talking to him for about 20 minutes. And I went over to my assistant. I said, wow, he's a nice guy. I like him. That Nick guy. And they said, you mean Nick Lachey? I said, yeah, who's he?
That's awesome.
That's what happened with that. So in your book, you have so many different acronyms. And I want you to tell us, we talked about impact. What's your favorite acronym that you have in the book?
I think the one that is most important is praise. Because it's something I developed many years ago to remind myself of the skills I needed to develop in order to be the leader that I wanted to be. And I had it posted at my desk for 20 years. And the P is praise is the P is about people. Because as you ascend in any organization, you do less stuff and you almost exclusively do people. The challenge is most people fall down because they cling to the things that they're comfortable with, the technical skills. Like I think about a general manager of a football team. That's the big. And I was talking to somebody this morning. I was like, hey, here's the deal. You know, you can't watch tape anymore. You know, you've got to do people. And it's really hard to make that leap. R is about resilience, because you are going to fail. You have to have a specific lens for failure. That failure is the opportunity to learn and get better. And you are the first one that has to get up and grab everyone else, and we keep going. A is about authenticity, which might be the most important thing. You can't fake this. You have to be authentically fired, like Vince Lombardi said, you better be fired with enthusiasm or you will be fired with enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So
I love
I is about inspiring. I mean, you're constantly thinking about techniques, tactics to inspire people to give their very best efforts. And S is see around corners. Everybody else has got their head down. They're working on the business. You're the only one that they're working in the business. You're the only one who can work on the business and look, see around corners and look for the next opportunity, the threats, and bring them in. One example of that is during COVID, my folks were so busy, but I saw an opportunity for us to establish a fitness brand in Houston called Texans Fit. 24-Hour Fitness went through bankruptcy, and I knew they were going to have to shed leases. And so we went from no fitness facilities to 5 fitness facilities in about 3 months. So once I did the deals, then I brought my team in and said, okay, here's what I want you to get accomplished. The deals are done. I've got the funding. We're all good. Just go execute. And that's what see around corners is really all about. And E is about execute. You got to have a way of doing things. They talk about the Patriot way. We have the Texans way. We have the Texans way of selling. We have the Texans way of managing, the Texans way of hiring. We have a way that we know works, and all great leaders codify ways of executing.
I love it. That's so powerful. So tell us, so you have all these different acronyms, and here you caught me today. I was like, hey, Jamey, why don't you send me that list of all the acronyms? And you said, well, this is where you go to get it. So tell us where we go get here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we created that. Oh, hello.
Well, Melanie, thank you for helping me with this, because it never would have happened without you. And it really is a gift to the world. I have zero economic interest in this. It's an opportunity. As someone asked me yesterday, you know, what's this all about? I was like, well, I've been climbing a mountain for about 30 years. I'm at the top. I'm good. But there are people struggling down below me, and I need to throw them a rope. And they need this rope to be able to get to where I am. And so we've created the website to provide additional resources for people. So there's all kinds of things you can get access to, including the blog post, which has really been fun. Like this morning, I got up and I was like, you know, I love Travis Tritt. I saw him last weekend. There's a song that inspires me. I'm going to give people the chorus to that song. It's just a paragraph. You know, it's something that has really been meaningful to me. It's just, I've been ingesting things for 30 years, and now I'm just spilling them out in hopes that people can be benefited by it. And if you don't want it, that's okay too. I'm not really concerned, but it's there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So people can visit Jameyroots.com to get that information. And I also want to touch really quick on your blessings and burdens. So inside the book, there's a QR code. And if you get the book, you can get that. So tell us a little bit about the blessings and burdens.
Yeah, so it's an exercise I developed about 25 years ago. Because people ask me, Jamey, you never have a bad day. My gosh, you're always on fire. I said, yeah, pretty much. I am on fire. But occasionally in the recesses of my home, I have doubts. I have things that aren't going right. I feel overwhelmed. And when I feel overwhelmed, I'll just pull out a piece of paper. I'll put a line down the middle. On the left side, I'll put blessings. On the right side, I'll put burdens. I start with the blessings, and I try to be as expansive as I possibly can. I've been incredibly blessed. I've worked for great people, great organizations. I mean, really, cream of the crop. I have a wonderful wife. She's not only beautiful, but she's sweet and supportive, everything I could have ever wanted. I have 2 children that somehow turned out exceptionally well. And as I tell them all the time, it had zero to do with my parenting. Okay? They're wonderful. We have a great neighborhood. I live in the United States of America, and I would never want to live anywhere else. There's just all these things, and you get about 20 down, and you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. What's bothering me? And usually it's one or two things. And then I have to ask myself, do I want to do something about this? Am I prepared to resolve it? And if I'm not prepared to resolve it, I've got to dissolve it. It's got to go away. I can't worry about it. Can I control it? If I can't control it, it has to go away. I have to strike it. But if I want to resolve it and I have control over it, I write down the 3 to 5 things that I'm going to do the next morning to make progress. I go to bed, I get up, and I start working on those things. And I always feel better.
And you are a good writer. Whenever we have meetings, task goes, you're writing it down, and then you're delegating who's going to do what and what you're going to do. And you're really great at doing that. So,
well, early on in my career, they called me a macro manager. And I said, what do you mean I'm a macro manager? They said, you put like 6 people on every to-do. So now, even if I have multiple people on a to-do, I underline the one that's responsible. So I just think accountability is so important. And the challenge with getting people to accept accountability is really a definitional issue. There's a difference between fault and responsibility. Just because it's your responsibility doesn't mean it was your fault. It doesn't matter whether it's your fault. If it's your responsibility, we don't even say the word fault ever. It's just who's responsible for what. And all of us are, at the end of the day, responsible for everything. But when you start talking about fault hurts. Fault is a criticism. Responsibility is empowering. Mm-hmm. And so we always try to talk about responsibility.
I love it. That's great for kids too. That's another parent. I like that. Incorporate that.
Well, thanks so much, Jamey, for being on our show. And for those of you who are listening on all the audio, you can go to Jameyroots.com to visit and get more information about the book.
Yep, definitely pick up his PDFs, get the blessings and burdens from the QR code, and then also go to Jameyroots.com like I did this morning and downloaded the PDF of all his acronyms and post that on your wall. I highly recommend it. So remember, Jamey, thanks so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Of course, Melanie. Great to see you. Great to see you, Jen.
All right. So remember to subscribe to our show because we always have fantastic guests like Jamey Roots. And if you're looking to do a book and become a best-selling author, contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full-spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.